You know, in music, an artist can literally go from a nobody to a global superstar almost overnight. But what happens when that incredible rise to fame gets completely overshadowed by a horrifying crime? Well, today we're diving into the really strange and deeply disturbing case of the musician known as d4vd. So, the big question is just as simple as it is shocking. How does an artist with this super bright future suddenly get tangled up in a murder investigation? To even begin to understand it, we've got to go back to the start of his sudden fame. So before all this controversy, d4vd was honestly one of music's most exciting new names. He had this cool, likable vibe, and his career was just on this seemingly unstoppable upward track. And it all happened so fast. I mean, his song Romantic Homicide just blew up in July of 2022. That one viral hit leads to a major record deal with Interscope, and from there, he's opening for Ziza. His song Feel It gets featured in the hit show Invincible. He even did a collaboration with Fortnite. By all accounts, everything was going perfectly for him. And that's exactly what made the news that broke in 2025 so jarring. The whole narrative of a rising star was about to be completely shattered by a really grim discovery. The very first reports were absolutely stunning. A body had been found inside a Tesla that was registered to d4vd. And according to those reports, the body had been in the car for a long time, so badly decomposed that it couldn't even be immediately identified. The initial timeline was, well, it was confusing. Apparently, the car just sat abandoned for days, but nobody reported it missing. It was eventually towed to an impound lot where it then sat for several more days before this horrifying discovery was finally made. Right away, the initial statements seemed designed to create some distance. A spokesperson for d4vd said he was on tour, but cooperating, and the LAPD pointed out that he owned several cars that lots of different people used. The implication felt pretty clear. This was a tragedy for sure, but maybe an event that was totally separate from him. But then, the victim was identified, and that's when this story took a much darker turn. This wasn't just some strange crime anymore. It was a deeply human tragedy, and the connections to d4vd were about to become way more troubling. The victim was just 15 years old. Her name was Celeste Rivas. She'd been reported as a runaway back in April 2024 when she was only 13 years old. She had been missing for over a year. I mean, just a heartbreaking detail, but one that didn't immediately link her to the musician. That, though, was about to change. Okay. So this is where a series of really strange coincidences and revelations started to pop up, drawing a much clearer and honestly much darker line between Celeste Rivas and d4vd. The first major connection came from Celeste's mother. She told reporters her daughter had a very specific tattoo, the word shush in red ink, right on her index finger. Well, it turns out d4vd has the exact same tattoo in the exact same spot. Now, it's not a totally unique tattoo, but the coincidence was pretty startling. And then came this bombshell. The victim's mother also told reporters, "My daughter had a boyfriend named David." After this came out, d4vd immediately canceled an upcoming show. The investigation really ramped up after that. LAPD homicide detectives got a search warrant for a house d4vd was known to be living in. Now, it was rented by his manager, but photos confirmed d4vd had been staying there. Detectives were seen leaving with a computer and several evidence bags. So while the official investigation was moving forward, internet detectives started piecing together their own version of events. Alleged photos and old stream clips of the two together started surfacing. There was a Reddit post published before any of this news broke, claiming a runaway teen was with d4vd. Even old discussions in his Discord server and a leaked song title seemed to hint at some kind of connection. Now look, this is all just online speculation, but it definitely painted a grim picture. So where does that leave the official investigation today? Well, things have gotten very quiet, and for a very specific reason. Here's the most recent official news we have. d4vd is a suspect, and he is under investigation. The case has now moved to the point where his family has actually been subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury, which is a huge step in any criminal investigation. And for anyone who might not know, a grand jury subpoena is a really serious legal move. It's basically an order to force someone to testify in a private hearing, where a jury then decides if there's enough evidence to file actual criminal charges. It means prosecutors think that person holds some crucial information. So why is their testimony so important? Well, journalist Lauren Conlin, who's been following this case, broke down 3 key things investigators are probably looking at. First, property transfers. Apparently, d4vd moved assets to his mother, and they want to know why. Second, his communication. Did he call his parents an unusual amount around the time of the crime? And third, the timeline. His family could provide really crucial details about where he was and how he was acting. And to add to all the secrecy, the LA County Medical Examiner's Office has been ordered not to reveal any details about Celeste's death. This is called a security hold, and it is highly unusual. It really suggests that investigators are tightly controlling every piece of information as they build their case. You know, in the middle of all the legal stuff and public speculation, the focus of this whole investigation has to remain on one thing: getting answers for a young girl whose life was cut way too short. So, what happens next? Right now, the case is kind of in a state of suspense, with the next moves just hanging in the balance. So here's where we are. Investigators are keeping all the details of the case private. d4vd has completely disappeared from the public eye and hasn't made any kind of statement. And the next major development, which could be an indictment, seems to hinge entirely on what his family reveals to that grand jury. This is just a horrifying story where fame and tragedy have collided in the worst possible way. All anyone can hope for is that justice is eventually served for Celeste Riavas. But for now, the public waits, the police investigate, and a family grieves. The only question left is whether the full truth will ever come to light.